Welcome, Envoys and Ode alike. This will be my biggest fully produced video that I've done so far, and it took a lot of work. I really appreciate you even clicking on it, so here we go. I'm going to cover everything that I consider relevant that is new to P10. If I miss anything, or you think that something is really cool that I didn't include, please do tell me. I'd love to see what you guys find important. First and foremost, we have two new starting weapons in P10, Gwylen and Wulder, as well as a visual rework for Thistle. So here they are. Gwylen, a witching staff of alder. Though its curling boughs look natural as wind, Gwylen was hand-shaped by Aureli Jardiniers, not carved, but grown into delicate curves finely tuned to facilitate the flow of magic. To grow a single wand takes years. A staff like Gwylen, a lifetime. So, with the addition of Gwylen, the Voltaic tree is now the Magic's tree. Gwylen does not do Voltaic damage, it does a new type of damage called Arcanic. Other than that, the two weapons are pretty much identical. I think I prefer Gwylen, but it might just be flavor. Anyway, now we have the new Courage starter, Wulder. Wulder, a hefty training sword forged many generations ago. Though its hilt has known many young soldiers to be, Wulder is not so worn as it is old. You imagine this broadsword respectfully retired, a mantelpiece hung above a Curlanen hearth, warming, waiting for the faded hand of its final student. So, Wulder's really just another long blade. Same exact moveset, different look. Now on to the visual update of Thistle. Thistle, a well-worn hunter's bow, lightweight and well-balanced despite its age. Thistle has the mark of a rude craftsman. The handle is grooved around your fingertips like an old friend. You've much in common with whoever held it last. Of that, you are certain. So as far as I can tell, Thistle only got a visual rework, and kind of small ones at that. But it is still the gray starting weapon, so it goes right here. It is worth mentioning for all of these that you cannot loot fragments for any of these starting weapons as long as you are in the faction that corresponds to their attunement. That means Alka's children cannot farm Gwylen fragments, Kith of Kings cannot farm Wulder fragments, and Silent Rose cannot farm Thistle fragments. Now, even though it wasn't mentioned anywhere in the patch notes, the bow Blitzle was brought back and changed to Courage. Blitzle, a finely balanced bow of Odin make, invented shortly after the Alkan conquest. Taking amusement from the Dendrit hunter's primitive weapon of choice, Odin blade makers crafted the Blitzle from the many discarded bows littering the late battlefield. Thus, a new addition to the Sinecure armamentarium. So this is our first bow that scales with Courage, and it has 2 mote slots, which opens up a lot of different builds that we can do with bows now. In addition to all of these weapons in P10, we also got an entirely new subsect of weapons called sidearms. We currently only have 2 types, and that is the Odin Flyblade and the Shortblade, with the short blades actually sharing their art trees with the main-handed short-blade weapons. Skilter, an Odin Flyblade. Forged in the molten star Valhall, this airlight knife is foiled in multiplicity. Skilter can be thrown across a sky tower while never leaving its master's hand. Such blades are common gifts to honor superiors and say more about status than utility. Yet those of grace may fly death upon their tiny wings. So these are incredibly fun. Their main attack feels a little bit like the magic weapons, Voltaic and Arcanic, and just how they home into the enemy, but their heavy attack actually allows you to switch off of the weapon and back to your main hand and have it still revolve around you. Because this is a completely new class of weapon, let's take a quick look at the arts tree. So, the first node in the arts tree is Split Focus, which increases the duration of orbiting flyblades by swapping weapons. It's a good thing that it is the first node because this is really the key of the weapon, is to throw out your flyblades with your heavy attack and then switch to your main hand and just have this orbiting ring of death around you, which is made even better by the node Ruthless, which says killing an enemy increases the duration of orbiting flyblades. And when it says increases duration, it can like double or triple the original duration of the orbiting flyblades. It's really good. Twist of Luck is a fairly standard node, just increasing smite chance on orbiting flyblades. Then, of course, there's the Perfect Throw node, which leads into Wind's Favor, which actually increases the projectile speed of the thrown weapons. I don't actually notice too much of a difference in the orbiting speed, but there's definitely a difference in the standard attack. Oiled Scabbard increases the Perfect Throw window, but I didn't actually see it increasing by that large of an amount. Maybe I have a bug, maybe not. And Wrist Brace, a lot like the Voltaics, just allows you to lock on at a further range. And then this bottom section of the tree is just a very standard Smite and Spectre Strike type of deal. Coming up next, we have Nettle, another sidearm that isn't an Odin Flyblade, but actually a short blade with an entirely new moveset. Nettle. Not more than an overlarge paper knife, but this cunning blade seeks a cunning hand. An ornamental dirk of Skilflandish make, held in the bookbinder's grip, Nettle is designed to slice open the delicate edges of a folded page. 'Twas 'tween these bound folds that Skilflandish tradition sealed secret messages, and a word, as much as any blade, can cut deep. So as you can see, Nettle belongs to the short blade art, which is kind of weird because it has a completely different moveset to every other short blade in the game, as well as Nettle being a sidearm and not a main arm. I would not be surprised if in the future, all of these sidearm short blades had a different art instead of being grouped in with the main-handed ones, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, there are two more sidearms, one Odin Flyblade and one short blade, but their drop rates are kind of fucked, and I don't have them. I can't show you them, and I don't even have any fragments to be able to get the footage of the lore or the stats. So instead, we're just going to move on to armor. And speaking of armor, they actually did add loadouts this Preludes. They're pretty buggy and they don't save everything, but as a rule of thumb, they will save anything that you directly equip to your character. All the armor also now has protection stats, which I direct you to Soulframe Plus because LV has already collected all of that for you. So, we did get a new overworld boss in the Mendicant King. He can be found in the southeastmost part of the map, in Stroaic, right here. All you have to do is go and ring the bell, and it's a pretty easy grind for his armor set, which you can see on the right here. After you kill him, just log out, log back in, and you'll be pretty close to Stroaic, and you can just run back and do it all over again. It is worth mentioning that all of his little adds that he summons also drop the armor set fragments. So, obviously one of the biggest new additions to P10 is the Festival of the Circade, and the Preludes server was on fire this Tuesday with a bunch of people contributing to the initial solution. The basics of this event are that all the heavy unit ode enemies that you find out in the world have a chance to drop crypt keys, which, as the name implies, you need to enter the crypts, each key getting consumed every time you enter a crypt. There are 3 crypt locations that we know of so far, all of them exiting from the same point near the middle of the map. Once you're inside the crypt, you're faced with a decoding puzzle that the community spent literally all night trying to crack. The details of both that puzzle and the rest of the crypt have been perfectly explained by Sarah over at Sarah Loves Archery, so I'll leave a link to her video in the description. After the decoding puzzle, at the end of the crypt is a room with a puzzle that reminded me a bit of Destiny's raid puzzles. I really think there was a lot of fun in figuring out specifically how to do it yourself, and I'm personally really glad I wasn't spoiled for it, but I'll leave you a small hint in that it involves a lot of Indiana Jones-esque light and weight checkpoints. Once you finish that puzzle, you get access to this admittedly kinda ugly to me armor set. Now, this update also added a few new enemies, including Willow Wings, which the community actually got to vote on the name for. I think they're really cute. They're kind of creeper-like for Minecraft. They don't do a lot of damage, so they're kind of just like a target practice enemy, a lot like how the ghosts were in the pumpkin event. I definitely see the possibility of these being pretty annoying to people, so I kind of hope they don't become super hated, because I like them. We also got these hideous, awful creatures. I don't even fucking know their name. One sec. Corrupted Slugs. Yeah, okay, pretty fitting name. First time I ran into these, they somehow one-shot me. I'm not really even sure, just full health, one-shot me, Instruaic. They're just these blobs. They shoot, like, needles at you. They're pretty annoying, but they're very slow-moving, so you can very easily just run away from them. I personally hate these a lot more than Willow Wings, but I don't think the community is going to follow through with me on that. Speaking of corrupted enemies, you can now find Mockeries out in the overworld. They just spawn in little batches in these little like islands of corruption all over the map. I found them to typically spawn a lot more in the north side of the map than the south, but that's probably anecdotal, and it could very well just be equally all across the board. There are also now jump scare Mockeries, specifically in the glades though. I don't think that they can spawn in the overworld. But what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to pretend like they're a rock and sit there and trick you into walking closer to it, jump out, grab you instantly, and just try to get the kill that way. Right now, they are glitched to basically just crash your game as soon as they die. So every time I tried to get footage of one, this would happen. Moving on. Faction Tales now have 3 different difficulties to them. They have 1-star, 2-star, and 3-star. The stars basically represent how many nodes there will be in the tale itself, and generally how long it would take. But the 1-star's loot pools are actually different from the 2 and 3-star right now. They're the only places where you can get the starter weapons. Other than that specific instance of a loot pool difference and the amount of nodes that each type of quest has, the only other difference is the amount of faction standing you get. The lowest amount of XP I've seen that you can get is from a 1-star in the lower level areas, and that's 85 XP. Now, this was before Hotfix 4, when they made the 1-stars more likely to take you into the Durmak, or take you into any of the other dungeon tile sets. Now, the highest XP, though, is still going to be up in the north, with 3 stars giving you 500 faction XP per tale. A cute small addition that they made is that whenever you play your pan flute at a yoke idol during a faction quest, completing the song will give you a buff in either courage, spirit, or grace. One of the biggest changes to Faction Tales as Preludes, though, is that you can no longer reliably reset your faction tale by entering a dungeon. Now, it still takes a long time for the first one to spawn, and a lot of times it won't be the type of faction tale that you are looking for. And re-entering dungeons to try and shock the world into giving you a new tale does not seem to be much faster anymore. So I'd honestly just recommend rolling with the punches and doing whatever faction tales pop up for you, especially if you're just trying to grind out XP. And then especially just stay in the north. Whew, alright, that was a lot. And P10 is just so big for Soulframe, even without the mode update, which a lot of us were looking forward to, and I still am looking forward to. There were just so many changes and so many improvements in a lot of little ways, and just strolling all about the game. Now, just for some general additions and changes, Kick is actually removed from the game, and they say that this is in preparation for the moat update, so my guess is that there are going to be moats that require an extra binding, and they felt that Kick was just going to be superfluous to it. I'm hoping that the special kicks like Garen's Headbutt and Ode Tempest's Gravitate get added back at some later date, because those were really cool parts of those classes that made them my favorite that are just gone now. There are additionally just a whole shit ton of new puzzles, and I don't even think that I've seen them all. I've probably played 10 to 15 hours of P10 so far, and holy crap, guys, I just keep finding new puzzles. And they're not that hard that I have to like actively seek out help for them, but there have been a few where I was like, I did not know what to do. In those occasions, though, it was more that I was currently using a weapon that the puzzle doesn't allow you to complete it with, so I'm sure that those little wrinkles are going to be ironed out in very short time. Pretty heavily related to the new puzzles and the new dungeons, though, we can no longer sit spam. So if you're just starting, or if you never actually like cheated, I guess, you used to be able to use the sit emote, wait for the bird to land on your knee, and then leave the emote and your character would take a step forward. And they could take a step forward despite what was in front of them. And we would use that to go out of bounds, to get through walls that we weren't supposed to get into the treasure rooms for puzzles that weren't actually implemented yet. All of that's gone. So I hope that that means that they're actually getting to the point where they're sure that they're implementing finished and polished things. World trees now have notes on them. You got a little bit of like a Twitter thing going on in the game. Now, all of the trees seem to have specific notes to that tree, except for the tree in the Nightfold, which I think is global. It's kind of hard to tell, because even then, it's hard to find the same notes. A lot of people have been posting really funny stuff, so just go look for yourself. A really welcome change is now all rare and common chests across the board will give you 1 health potion back. And just that being the only way to reliably get one back without like dying or waiting is really big. And you can feel it. You feel so much less stingy with your health potions now that you can just use them whenever. One of the cute glitches that used to be in the game was that you used to lose reputation with Tuvalkane when you sold one of the weapons that she crafted for you. That's no longer in the game. And obviously we knew that that wasn't going to stay, but just due to her being really self-conscious about her work, I thought it was kind of cute and in character that she would get upset when you sold her weapons. So maybe they bring that back in some funny little nod to it, or maybe they don't. Like losing 1 reputation or something. And finally, weapon effects will now actually show for the rest of your party. I'm pretty sure that this only affected bow players, but I main bow, so I really felt it. So people who I was playing with could not see my arrow rain or see my camphor arrow explosions or whatever. And now they can. And it's a lot more informative. It lets people in your group make better decisions about who they're going for, and it's a good change. I hope that going forward, all of the visuals for all of the weapons and pacts are party-wide. And that's kind of it. Like, it was a lot, sure, but there were more changes, and you can go read the full patch notes for both P10 and hotfixes 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're updating this game like crazy. If I missed anything that you thought was important that was added recently, please do tell me in the comments, and I might even pin it or add it to my description. It would mean a lot to me if you would follow, like, share, all of those buzzwords, just because these videos do take a really long time to make, and I really want to dedicate more of my time to making videos about Soulframe for you. If you're at all interested in Soulframe's lore or just want to learn some fun facts about the game, I do have series for both of those on my channel for you to check out. Until next time, Envoys.